I'm going to be presenting a 10-step roadmap to a people-led governance. 10 steps to an assembly. Now, we stand at a crossroads in our nation's story, a time when distant bureaucracies and unaccountable offices seem more powerful than the very people they were ordained to serve. Now, across town halls and social media feeds, the cries are growing. People are saying nothing changes. They don't listen. Yet the founders warned us that the government derives their just powers from the consent of the governed. That is from the Declaration of Independence. And Scripture reminds us that where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. And that comes from Proverbs 11, verse 14. Now, this moment calls for more than protest. It calls for purposeful assembly, rooted in law, conscience, and community. Now, in a culture that praises individualism, the ancient practice of gathering of we the people convening under shared principles has nearly vanished. But when an assembly forms, it revives the original engine of our republic, and that would be self-governance. Now, why is this relevant now? Because unchecked power grows when the people are silent, corruption and overreach flourishes in shadowed hallways, not open meetings, and hope vanishes when people believe they have no agency. Yet Article 1 of the First Amendment guarantees us the right to assemble and to petition our government. The steps that you're about to learn are not theoretical. They are tried in the Magna Carta, practiced by the Continental Congress, and sanctioned by Scripture itself. They are a blueprint to restore accountability, transparency, and community authority. Now, if you're tired of feeling powerless, if you long to see your local leaders answer to you, then listen closely. These 10 steps to an assembly will equip you to reclaim your voice, your rights, and restore your republic, one lawful meeting at a time. Now, step 1, you want to initiate community dialogue. Proverbs 15, verse 22 reminds us that without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. So what you want to do is you want to begin by gathering as many interested community members as possible to discuss shared concerns. Assign at least 2 people to take notes and begin guiding the conversation towards forming an assembly. Now, at this stage, there is no need to decide whether the assembly will be at the county or the state level, but the primary goal is to introduce the concept of a community assembly as a legitimate means to address collective grievances. Now, once this idea gains traction, you want to guide a discussion towards formalizing the assembly under the authority granted by Article 1 of the Bill of Rights. Now, be mindful of the meeting length, agree on a set time, and avoid fatigue and plan the next meeting. Ensure that all the details are recorded, as these notes will serve as the official meeting minutes of the first assembly meeting. Now, step number 2, you want to establish the initial structure and leadership. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40 says, "But all things should be done decently and in order." Exodus 18, verse 21 also says, "Moreover, look for able men from all the people, men who fear God, and place such men over the people as chiefs." Now, at this second meeting, again, with a designated note taker, you want to focus on formalizing how the assembly will operate and what leadership roles are needed. Now, there are key roles that are essential to ensure order and continuity. The first one is moderator. This position maintains order and guides the meeting's flow. The second position you're going to want is a recording secretary, also known as a scribe. They collect and organize the notes and maintain official records. And the third one you want to have is a bailiff, or a sergeant at arms. And what the bailiff does is assist the moderator in preserving order and addressing any disruptions that will occur. And believe me, they will and have. Now, additional roles that you want to keep in mind for a later time would be roles like treasurer, chaplain, and historian, or other roles. Now, these roles can be introduced later as needed to support the assembly's function. Now, step number 3, you want to understand the role of numbers. Ecclesiastes 4, verse 12 says, "Though one may be empowered, 2 can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken." The assembly should now focus on structure and representation, drawing from historical precedent such as Chapter 61 of the Magna Carta from 1215, which appointed 25 barons to oversee grievances. The Michigan General Assembly, the first state to assemble and settle, chose 27 members for the state-level body, including 2 alternates. For county assemblies, 13 members were selected, which also aligns with the composition of a petite jury. Now, these numbers are foundational. They're not made up. They're foundational for establishing a legitimate de jure lawful jurisdiction. Now, step number 4. Now, keep in mind, these steps must go in sequential order. They cannot be skipped around or, done in different order. They have to go step 1, step 2, and so on. Now, step 4, you want to define the core principles and participation. Micah 6:8 says, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." By the third meeting, the group should solidify its operational principles. The assembly exists to ensure safety and well-being of its members and community at large, and what it's supposed to do is aim to direct public officials back to their constitutional duties and away from self-serving practices. The assembly must decide on a fair and agreed-upon method for admitting new members by majority, a quorum, or other representative process. Now, everyone present should be heard. Very important. Unity in voice and vision is very crucial. The meeting and the assembly should not be controlled by 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 people. Everyone has an equal voice. Not 1 and not 2, but all. This is very important you hear this. This ensures that the assembly can speak collectively and legitimately when addressing government misconduct. Now, there are groups out there that have 1 or 2 trying to control the whole thing. That is not how that works. Now, step number 5, publicly declare the assembly's existence. Isaiah 62 verse 6 says, "On your walls, O Jerusalem, I have set watchmen. All the day and all the night they shall never be silent." To establish legal standing, the assembly must publicly announce its existence. State-level notice must be published as a legal notice for 4 consecutive weeks in a major state newspaper. The county-level notice must be published for 3 weeks in the local newspaper's legal section. Now, here's a little note you need to remember. Newspaper attorneys may resist publication. I'd advise you to persist respectfully, citing the First Amendment and insisting that the notice be formatted like government or legal notices without a surrounding box around the notice, which could signify submission to external jurisdiction. Copies of each publication must be kept by the scribe as official records. Now, for the county, you'll want to read the notice into the minutes of the next county board or town hall meeting. For the state, send the final notice via registered mail to the governor and attorney general, and if you want to take it a step further, to all sheriffs in all counties of your state. Now, step 6, you want to address specific community grievances. Ezekiel chapter 33 verse 6 says, "But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, his blood I will require at the watchman's hand." Now, by now the assembly should be actively identifying and addressing local issues. Volunteers, 3 to 5 per topic, should research and present evidence-backed findings. Now, from this, the assembly can draft official notices to deliver to the responsible government agencies or individuals citing specific laws, rules, or actions that caused harm. The primary function of the assembly is education, empowering members to inform and awaken the broader community. Now, true self-governance is achieved by holding officials accountable and eliminating legal immunities that protect misconduct. Now, this includes the ability to challenge judges, attorneys, law enforcement, and other officials when they violate the people's rights. Now, step number 7, you want to maintain records and peaceful conduct. Now, Habakkuk, verse 2 from chapter 2, it says, "And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it." That's Habakkuk 2, verse 2. Accurate records of assembly activities are essential to resist and rebut government dismissals. All action must be and must remain peaceful and lawful. The assembly must document its findings, actions, and correspondence with officials to establish legal standing and legitimacy. Now, notices and complaints and FOIA requests should follow standardized procedures. Now, these protocols, along with a well-maintained chain of evidence, ensures the assembly's efforts are credible and impactful. Now, step number 8. You want to develop foundational documents. Deuteronomy 31 verses 12 through 13 says, "Assemble the people that they may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, and be careful to do all the words of this law." So 2 guiding documents should be created and crafted. The first one is Assembly Operations and Functions Manual. This outlines principles, procedures, and organizational structure to educate both current and prospective members. The second one is Grand Jury Operation and Functions document. This details how the Assembly's grand jury operates and process for drafting and issuing indictments. Now, once an indictment is issued, the Assembly must maintain communication with the responsible government offices to follow through. Now, this process will test the resolve and patience of the Assembly. Now, step number 9. Research the Republic and legislative history. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me." The highest function of the assembly is education. Members must study the history of the Republic, the state's origin, and how legislation has drifted from its intended purpose. The growing influence of attorneys and career politicians has most certainly led to oppressive laws and policies. Assemblies must analyze and demand the repeal of correction of harmful legislation. Though difficult and time-consuming, this work is very essential, and the Assembly must keep detailed records of its meeting, roles, and actions taken, and communication sent to government officials. Now, without documented evidence, the Assembly lacks legitimacy, standing, and cannot demonstrate meaningful action. Now, step number 10, you want to promote accountability and national collaboration. Now, these steps aim to awaken the public to the reality that meaningful redress will come not through corrupted courts or fantasies of immediate justice. See, the right to challenge and remove corrupt officials must be reclaimed by we the people through lawful actions. Galatians 6:9 says, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." This is very important. We will reap if we do not give up. Ephesians 5:11 says, "Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. And believe me, there is an extreme high level of darkness at play trying to destroy the assembly efforts as we speak. Do not let this hinder you." Emotional responses are to be expected. They are. But they must be directed towards dismantling legal immunities and challenging unjust legislation. Each assembly should meet regularly, either by person or by phone, to review findings, draft documents, and challenge unjust legislation, and to submit official communication. A regular state-level call should be established, along with participation in a National Assembly call to coordinate efforts across states and address federal-level abuses. Now, there are a few groups out there, which shall remain nameless, that have national-level calls. It is very confusing to figure out what is the right one and what is the wrong one. But may I just remind you, keep in mind that when one or two or even possibly three take the reins and keep control of the reins and dictate how everything goes, when you have a ringleader in a group, and it's very easy to figure that out, you're in the wrong group. It is one thing to have a moderator to help with the flow of the meeting and to establish that there is respect in the quorum. That is one thing. But when you have somebody who acts out of line, that's the wrong one. And you'll know. Let your conscience be your guide. Let God guide you, and may you have discernment in picking that up. Through diligence, education, and persistence, the people can restore rightful governance and end the unchecked authority of corrupt public officials. Now, why does this matter today? In an era where trust in government has crumbled very badly, and the cries of the people echo unanswered in the halls of power, these 10 steps are not merely procedural, they are prophetic. They are a call to return to the first principles, that be truth, accountability, and self-governance, under God the Father, Almighty in heaven. They are a torch in the darkness of confusion, apathy, and institutional decay. But now I ask you, what will you do with this torch? Will you carry it forward or let it die out under the weight of distraction? And when you see a law that crushes your neighbor's freedom, will you shrug? Be like, oh well, or are you going to assemble and do something about it? When an unelected board makes decisions for your children, your land, or your livelihood, are you going to grumble and complain, or are you going to organize? When your rights are trampled in the name of safety or control, will you retreat, or will you respond lawfully, boldly, and united? Do you believe that your voice still matters? Because I'm here to tell you it does. Do you believe that your community still has the power to act as one? Because I'm telling you right now, through experience, it does, and it will. Do you believe this nation can be reawakened county by county, township by township, state by state, by people of conscience who gather not in chaos but in truth? Because here is the deeper truth. The state is not a distant institution. It's not. The state is us. It's we the people. Not a few people. We the people. And when we assemble under law with clarity and righteousness, we are not rebelling, we are restoring. See, our founders did not wait for permission. They didn't. Moses did not wait for Pharaoh's blessing to assemble the people. Jesus did not wait for Rome's approval to speak the truth. So why are we? Why do we wait for a corrupted system to fix itself when the authority to reform it is in our hands? The time has come to reassemble our states, not just politically, but spiritually, communally, and lawfully. Let each county become a beacon. Let each township become a fortress of principle. Let each household become a cell of conscience. And let each state assembly become a force for justice. You're not alone in this call. You are part of a movement of farmers, truckers, tradesmen, teachers, veterans, mothers, fathers, and students, all awakening to the reality that the Republic lives or dies, not in Washington, but on your block, in your town, around your table. So gather your people, print the Constitution, read the scriptures, form the minutes, make the calls, publish the notice, stand your ground, because freedom is not a memory. It is a mandate. Because lawful assembly is not a privilege, it's a duty. Because you were not born to be ruled, you were born to steward and serve. This is the people's authority. And now more than ever, it's time to ignite it. Are you going to rise? Are you going to build? Or are you going to help reassemble your township, your county, your state before it's too late? The Republic awaits not just your answers, but it awaits your action. Now get to it.